Hi, this is Pete Gooding from Ibiza, musical director at Hostel La Torre, and you are listening to the Liverpool Connection Podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Liverpool Connection Podcast. I'm your host Daz. This is my football and music episode where I bring on a musician who is obviously into football and music. I've been wanting this lad to come on for a long time to have a chat. Again, he's part of my musical landscape and upbringing, an 80s, 90s kid. It's so crazy to think that it's been this many years that are putting out their anniversary edition of their first self-titled album, which I'll say Utah Saints. So that kind of gives you a hint. But I've got Tim from Utah Saints to come on and chat to me. He's also a Liverpool supporter, which is even better. Because I've had so many amazing musicians come on, and it's great to talk footy and music, and to hear that you're a Liverpool supporter. Really, I was like, wow, that's even better for me.
Yeah, so I'm not. Yeah, so like I said from the off, I'm not a diehard. I'm not a diehard football because I don't have enough time to spend on it, but I've always supported Liverpool since I was a child, and so because I watched your podcast with Aston from the Freestylers, and he's like every home game season ticket holder, and and if I supported any other team, I could probably be a season ticket holder, but as you know, being Liverpool, to get a season ticket holder it's probably easier for me to get to the moon.
Yeah, it's gold dust. That's what it is. But I want to ask you, because I mean you're a London boy, right?
Yes, I was born in London. Grew up in Kentish Town and Highgate, and then moved towards Stevenage area, then Lincolnshire till I was about 17. And then when I was 17, I lived in a small village, and there wasn't a lot going on. I thought. I was into my music and that, and I thought I need to go to a big city if I want to get anywhere, really. And I'd pick Leeds because when I looked on the map, Leeds was like right in the middle of the country. So I thought I could be in Manchester in a bit, could go to Newcastle, or go to London. So it seemed a really good location. So I went, and then I thought, well, I'm not going to, because I was living in the countryside, I thought I won't go living exactly in Leeds. I thought I'll move just outside of Leeds. So I lived in Harrogate for a few years, and then eventually moved to Leeds, and that's how I met Jazz, my partner, who is from Leeds.
Well, how did supporting Liverpool? Because like you said, you're London born and bred, so you have so many football teams to choose from. Why Liverpool?
Well, my first ever game, first ever game my dad took me to was when I must have been about 7 or 8 years old, and I went to Highbury. The old Highbury, and my dad took me to see Arsenal v Liverpool, and that was back in the time when like Keegan was playing and Ray Clemence was in goal, and it was like that classic Liverpool team, and I kind of just from then on I just had a soft spot, and probably my blood should have drawn me to be an Arsenal fan, but I always had a soft spot for Liverpool, and after that I remember I wanted to be. I asked my dad to buy me for Christmas the Liverpool goalkeeper kit. So it was Ray Clemence's kit, and that was my Christmas present. And then I got a nice pair of Adidas boots the following year. So that kind of thing. Just think, little things when you're young, like just stick with you forever. And I've only ever been to Anfield once, and I was lucky enough to go. To when the friends of mine who had a season ticket were away, and I went with my daughter. I managed to sit in the Kop when they were playing Hull. This was a few seasons back, and I was about 3 from the front behind the goal, and it was one of the greatest days of my life. So I've done a lot of things in my life, and when people ask me what did you enjoy most, I put that up even though we've been on tour with U2 and supported, I've done lots of gigs and travel around the world. That day there just was a highlight for me.
Well, was Ray Clemens your boyhood hero then?
Yeah, and then but I was never tall enough to be a goalkeeper, and I wasn't brilliant at football. But I played in little school teams and all that. But I just, I don't know. There was just something that gelled me to that to Liverpool, and I'd always kind of I always followed them. But I've never been like right, and when I can watch a game of football, I always enjoy watching football. Like, the closest team to me at the moment, I can see their stadium from my house, right in the distance, is Boston United, and they're way down in the league. And I've been to like a couple of games there now because I just enjoy going to a game, and I enjoy just going out, and watching a game of football. It's cool. And then, I'll always watch an England game when there's an England game on TV. I'll even watch like a Man City game or a Man United game if there's something on TV. I just enjoy watching football. I don't know if you're the same, because I know you're a diehard Liverpool fan. So do you find it easy to sit there and just watch another game, or if it's not Liverpool?
Well, first most, Liverpool first, but I am a football supporter,
Yes.
But if I have it on another game on the telly, I'm not like 100% focused on it.
Yeah.
Like I'll be doing other stuff. But when it's Liverpool, it's like everybody in the house be quiet.
Yeah.
I'll turn the volume up to like 60. Like I'm actually at the stadium. My wife's like, you have to have it so loud. I'm like, shh, I've got to feel it, and and in the pub and everything as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm a footy supporter as well. I like watching good teams. I can't stand Man City, but they are a good football team. Whatever's happening off the pitch with the 115 charges, that's a bit different. But when you actually watch a team like City, the Rodri is probably the best DM in world football.
Yeah.
You've got to appreciate them.
Yeah.
And even the United teams of like the 80s, who I couldn't stand either, you've got to appreciate it. But I think, Tim, we grew up again in the 70s when Liverpool were at the top. It was either Liverpool winning or United were winning. It was those two teams.
Yeah.
The 80s, Arsenal started to come into it. But basically, it was just us and United all the time.
Yeah. No, I remember watching like FA Cup finals with Manchester United and Liverpool. Many of those, and but I always find this was quite a lot. The cool thing was I like watching that final as a kid, and then we actually played Wembley Stadium back in the old Wembley Stadium when we supported U2, and they gave us one of the team's dressing rooms. Like they gave us the home team's dressing room as our dressing room. So things like that were cool for me, because I just so when I went in there, I thought the history that has taken place in this room, and actually going in that stadium, because I never actually saw anything else at that stadium, so I never went to a game there, but we played a gig there. And we also got to go around the football stadiums around Europe with them, which was cool. So I always thought, I remember watching this game from here, but we're playing it as a band, so it was weird. But there is a strong link between music and football for me.
Oh, and like I was talking to Dub Pistols, Barry Ashworth, and it's crazy to think, when they're playing a gig and Liverpool are playing, because he's a massive Red as well.
Yeah.
He would have to get somebody to set up a telly on the side of the stage. So between songs and stuff, he'd take a quick look. And I think that's great. I
remember I was doing a gig a few years ago when England were playing Sweden, and I think it was in the Euros, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and we had a gig on that Saturday afternoon. I'm actually DJing, and the match was on, and they had it on the screens, and it was an outdoor festival thing. So people were dancing and that, and but England won that game, and but it was cool. It was just weird because I had it on the screens and I had my phone set up, and so I was DJing, and my set was kind of our set, mine and Joseph, was kind of dictated by the pace of the game. So, but yeah, it's cool. It's like I understand why. Yeah, I mean Barry is mad on football. He's mad on Liverpool, and another friend of mine, Crafty Cuts, Martin. He's mad Liverpool fan. But it's weird because I'm not. I wouldn't class myself as. They're like diehard, so they'll just talk about it for hours. So they probably don't even know that I support Liverpool. So they'll probably have to watch this to realise that I support Liverpool. Because I don't feel qualified to sit there and talk to them about it. With
yeah, I've had Martin on before.
Right,
Crafty's brilliant. And he's always like, you know, when he's on tour, he'll message me. And we'll talk, especially like during the summer, the transfers. He's like, "What's going on? What's going on with Liverpool?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, it's the same. You know, I love that enthusiasm from people. But you know, it is great to have people like yourself on though, because and with Martin and with Barry as well, because you know, we all know you're musicians, and most of your interviews are going to be about music.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool to know a little bit more about you than just the musical side. And, you know, that's a big reason why I do these football and music episodes, is to know more about you, you know, as a person. Because if you want to know about you can get on YouTube, you can watch interviews, you can get on Google and find all your stuff about Utah Saints. But apart from that, you know, people don't know, you know, the data him as a person. And I love these little chats because I get to, you know more about you. And again, you know, I am a fan, and it's all the guests I've had on have all been, you know, again, part of my musical upbringing. And it's just, it's just really cool to have people like yourself on. But I want to go into the musical side now. Like, what were your earlier, like, musical roots? Like, I always like to know what was playing in your house growing up. You know, I know for me, my dad was a rocker. My mum was in Elvis and the Beatles. So, you know, what were you listening to as like a young kid?
So I was quite lucky because my mum was a dancer when she grew up, and she was a thing called Windmill Girl, which is quite a famous theatre in London. She was a dancer there, and then when she retired from that later on in life, she started doing she was doing exercise classes at a local hotel. She was hiring a room there, but part of that was that every week she had to put an hour-long music thing together. So my mum actually went out and brought vinyl and brought a lot of kind of up-tempo dance music. So she had a really good selection of albums and quite good disco stuff. So I used to, we had like an old belt drive turntable in the house, and I used to sort of just make tapes of their records. And like every other kid at the time, I used to sort of tape top 40. And then I'd have a tape-to-tape machine, and I'd try and edit out the guy talking in between the records. This is kind of like an early mixtape, so you try and stop it just as the guy starts to talk or on a beat, and then you bring the next record in and you make your own cassette. I'm sure you did that as well. And you know, so and out of that developed. I just got kind of like a love of music, and got into just. I wanted to explore DJing further, and so I asked my dad if he could lend me, if I could pay him weekly off, and I could get one of these. Candy did this 49.95 mixer that had a crossfader and was a 4-channel mixer. It was one of the cheapest mixes you could get, and so he got me that. And I used to and I'd nick the garage belt drive turntable, and I'd buy my cassette recorder, and I'd try and just cut between the two and try and make the record stay in time by pushing it around. And it was terrible, but there was something in it for me, and something that hooked me in. And and I remember when I was a kid seeing there was a program on Channel 4 called The Tube, and which was great because it was on every Friday night around about tea time. And I remember seeing Herbie Hancock do a track called Rocket, and he did it live on there. And I remember seeing a DJ called Grand Mixer DST, and he was doing scratching, and I was just blown away by it and completely fascinated by it. And so I kind of, back then, it was obviously before the internet, and we only had the 3 channels. So, that is even before Channel 4 started. So actually, so Channel 4 started, and I had the Tube on. But so seeing stuff like that on TV was very rare. I couldn't afford to have a video recorder at the time. And, so I'd just very briefly see little things on TV. And, whereas now you just have got on YouTube and that, but to see something like that on TV was amazing. And I remember seeing Buffalo Gals by Michael McLaren, and seeing all the breakdancing and the graffiti and the music, and I was just fascinated by it all. And then out of that, I kind of got into the electro music, and I brought all the Street Sounds electro albums. And when I got my first job, my first paycheck at the end of the month, I remember buying a set of Technics, and they cost me £249, I think they did, and I bought 2 Technics. And that was it for me. that was it, and I'd have been probably 17, and then I just stayed in my bedroom while all my friends were giving me grief, going, "I come out, why are you into this music? It's crap. Get into indie music and rock music, and you're a bit weird. Why are you playing disco records in your bedroom when everybody else is out?" And I stayed in and tried to make tapes, and I just practiced my craft. And then I entered then I left home, and then at that point I went to Leeds, and I entered the DMC Technics thing in 1987. And I came nowhere because I've never DJed in front of anybody, and I was so nervous. I just reckon when I put the needle on it, just skipped. And but that was the first time playing in front of anybody. And then thought, right, I'll go back again next year. I'll try again. And then the next year, I won the heat for the North of England in '88, I think it was. I entered the heat up north, and I won that, and then got into the last 8 or 9 in the country. And they invited to the final in London, and I remember this. I couldn't get anybody to go with me, and I thought, I'm not going to win this. And I kind of bottled out going, and I'd always, one of my great regrets, I should have always gone to the final, even if I didn't come anywhere. So I just went. I just won my jacket, and I thought, right, I won the heat. I'll try and get a job off the back of this DJing in a club. But I never went down to battle in the finals. So there you go. But the rest after that, the rest is history, because I started DJing in a club, and then I kind of realized with the turntablism and the scratching and that, I thought nobody gets anything who's coming second in this. So you win it and you become like the best. Everybody knows that person, but nobody knows the other 5 other people really who came. They do in the scene, but it's very hard to kind of make a living after that as a job. It's like, whereas I thought if I focus on DJing and try and maybe get into production and try to make music and go that way and put my time into that, then maybe that'll work for us.
Well, it's a little bit like A-Track over in the States and Craze.
Yeah.
They won the DMC, and I remember those 2 names very well. I could not tell you who came second, third, fourth.
Yeah.
So it does it sticks with you, and you see there.
And A-Track is one of the very few people in the world, I would say, who won who could win the championship and can make great records and remixes. you know, and he's extremely talented because the amount of time, you know, you could focus all that time on DJing, you could never be as good as A-Track, or you could focus all that time on music, and you could still never be as good as A-Track. So he's kind of like in a league of his own. So he's super talented.
It must run in the family because, you know, his older brother is part of Romeo. And he can DJ as well. I mean, I don't think he can scratch like A-Track, but, you know, he can still put a mix together. But, you know, for your early influences, just like mine, electro and early hip hop. So when did the production side, when did you know, like, did you just go, all right, I just want to DJ, that's it? Or when did that start to go, you know what, I'd like to start actually making music?
Well, a couple of years before Utah started, when I kind of got this job in this club in Harrogate, and I was DJing all night, and so I kind of, you know, played from 9 o'clock until 2:30 in the morning, and that's always a good test to learn DJing because you just play and get the hours under your belt. So I'm a great believer, and I always say this to, like, I've got a daughter, you know, because I do think now in the current world that we live in, I think people kind of expect to be like at a certain level, whatever they do, within 6 months, and then they're like, and I know it's hard because you go on YouTube and you go, right, say whatever you want to do. Say you wanted to do like a yo-yo champion, for example. You go on the YouTube and you type it in, and the person you'd see would probably be, you know, amazing, and you're like, I'm never going to be as good as that. So when we grew up, you didn't have that. You just thought, I want to do yo-yo, and you start doing tricks, and you maybe see a couple of people doing it, but you just keep practicing. And I think I always like say to people, like, you have to put in, you know, the 10,000 hours thing. You know, if you pick whatever you pick, if you did it for 10,000 hours, you should be at an all right level that you think, right, I'm never going to be amazing, but I'm pretty good at this. You know, and I'd say that with DJ, and I say that with music, and it's like you've got to put a lot of time into it. Nothing happens overnight. And so going back to, you know, your question, it's like I just thought, right, I wanted to go in the studio. I was DJing in this club in Harrogate, and I wanted to go in the studio. I had no idea like how to work the equipment, so I hired a studio and I went in and I just took a load of records, and I had an engineer there, you know, and I was like, can I sample this loop, do that, and I realized it's like it was hard to have, because you had an idea in your head, and it was kind of transferring that to come out of the speakers is quite a hard thing to do through a third person. So but out of that, I kind of made a few records, and then I always wanted to sign to a label in Sheffield called Warp Records, because I love the sound coming out of Sheffield and Leeds, which was people like Nightmares on Wax and people like the Forge Masters and Unique 3 out of Bradford. They were making this kind of bleepy sort of northern techno, and Warp seemed to be the label that was putting out this cool stuff. So I made a track which I thought would work on Warp, and I remember going to Sheffield and walking into Warp Records thinking I was going to get a deal, and I didn't get a deal, but I went to another label in Sheffield called Ozone, and they put out kind of techno-y stuff, and then I released some records with them. So that was my first thing, sort of turned to production, and through working in this club in Harrogate, we did a Friday night, and it was a real bit of a shithole of a club, basically, because it was the club that they had an ongoing night there. We went to see them, so could we hire the venue, because it always had about 20 people in, and it was the place that you went when you got turned away from every other place in town. So it wasn't a very nice venue, but it was below a restaurant. It had a license for 150 people. We went and saw them, said, could we hire it? We did a house night, and then anyway, back then, as you remember at the start of the rave thing, it's like you put a house night on, everybody came. Like, no matter, you didn't have to have big name DJs on. Whereas now, if you would go, right, I'm going to put a night on Saturday night, you say, right, who's playing, and you know, you have to build it up really slowly. Back then, you put a night on, and people came, and you'd always have queues, and you could have done it on a Thursday night, and people would have come. because people went out, and the people don't really go out so much anymore. They go out, once every few weeks. But yeah, so it did really well this night, and I remember we brought people like Graham Park came over, Sasha played there, and we got guests in, and so it was a cool little thing. But eventually, it got shut down by a fire officer because it had a license for 150, and the fire officer came down one night, and it was just going off, and there was 300 people. Probably 50% of them were on ecstasy. Probably 80% of them were, and it's just like that was game over. But during that night, the club people who own the club were really happy, and they said, "Do you want to take the Saturday night as well?" And we said, "Yeah." But we said we'll put something different on, and we just put a kind of more of a chilled out night playing disco, and the person who ended up DJing that was Jez. Because Jez was doing a night in Leeds called the Mile High Club, which was like a disco night, because he was DJ as well. So a friend of mine knew Jez, and he brought Jez over to come and check the night out. And he said, "Yeah, I'll DJ Saturday night." So Jez ended up DJing Saturday night. I did the house night on Friday, and then we ended up going to each other's nights, and that's how we kind of realised that we both. And Jez had put music out before, and he'd been in like electronic. Industrial bands that had done really well, and he toured all of Europe, and and he had his own label. He had a setup in his bedroom of like samplers and keyboards and an Atari computer, and so we just like had a lot in common. So and then one night he brought over to my house night. He brought a rough cassette of a basic idea for What Can You Do For Me, which was our very first track, and I remember I just stuck it on in the middle of the night, and I thought, this has got something, this. And I said, and then I suggested some ideas, and then he just said, "Oh, well, we should go in the studio and finish it off." And I had an idea for a B-side, and then so we went in the studio and finished it off, and then pressed up 1,000 like coloured vinyl, and with the intention of selling them, and then maybe getting our money back and moving on to do something else. And I remember getting in the car and I'd go to the record shops in Leeds, or to go to Eastern Bloc in Manchester. I remember coming to 3 Beat in Liverpool, and I just gave some on sale or return, and they all rang up the next week and said, "Can we have a load more?" And then I sent one to Pete Tong, who had his show on Radio 1, and I had a little bet with Jez. I thought he'd play it. Jez didn't think he would, and then sent it to Pete Tong on the Wednesday, and Pete Tong played it on the Friday night, and then rang up on the Monday, because he was also the A&R and label manager at Double F Double R London Records, and he signed the record, and then 3 months later it was like top 10. So we were like, it was crazy. It just happened so fast, but there was no master plan from us. There was no we thought we had a hit record. It's just like we made a record to work in a club, and then we pressed a few. That was it.
Yeah, I think that I don't want to sound like a grandpa, but I do miss the good old days where because I've got a bunch of mates that produced back in the day as well, and just seeing them cart around a bunch of their own vinyl and give it to the guest DJs and stuff, and just seeing the connection. Today you get on beat. I had this discussion with Aston as well. You get on Beatport, and there's just thousands of tracks, and 90%.
Part of the reason for that, and which I sort of strongly believe, because back then, so when we did that record, right, to press up, even back then in '91, to press up 1,000 copies, right, we had to commit to a grand, right. To go in the studio, so we made the record in the bedroom of Jez's house, the idea, but then to take it into the studio and make it finished quality, that was another 2 days. It was a couple of £100 a day for the studio. So we were like 1,500 quid, and that's like 1,500 quid now is still a lot of money, but 1,500 quid in 1991 was a lot of money, So in order to get a record out, you had to think. There was a level of commitment there, whereas now, you could give me a laptop, I could go online. I could download. I could probably get my hands on free software, plugins, everything, right? And I could make a tune in my computer. I could mix it on the headphones, and I could get it up on Spotify within a couple of weeks, right? And it hasn't cost me one penny. So if it does it all right, then cool. But if it doesn't, I haven't lost anything. So I think going back to what you say, so you'd have like, and it was just that exciting because, you know, and as a DJ, you had to work really hard. It's like, you know, I could, if I had a set, someone said to me, right, go and do a disco set on Saturday night, and I didn't have any disco, I could spend like, you know, I could spend a couple of nights online. I could just buy a load of stuff, put a set together, happy days. You know, whereas back then, it's like, you know, in order to get these records that were coming out, like our record, or if you weren't in the record shop that week because you had something else to do, you'd miss that record because it'd be gone. Do you know what I mean? And then people were playing those tracks in the club, and people were asking for those tracks, and we go, we've got that record that's got that. And so you had to be on your A game. So you go to Manchester, you go to Liverpool, because they all have records which other places didn't have. You go to London, you know, and what made you stand out as a DJ was the tunes you had. Because, you know, whereas now, I'd say the difference is, everybody's got access to Beatport. So kind of what you got to do now to stand out is make your own edits, make your own versions of things. And that's, which you kind of didn't do then. But so that's how, to me, how it's changed.
Yeah, and you know, say you do a mix tomorrow night, those tracks will be online the next day. You know, you can look. What is it? It's track list 11001.
Yeah,
you know, it's so simple. But back in the day, it was, if you heard, you know, that set one night, you probably wouldn't hear a couple of those records for at least six months later. And I
exactly.
Think,
and you know, you and your mates would be like, somebody would get a cassette of a DJ who did a mixer that night, and then you'd all copy that cassette, and it would, like, you just hammer it to death. Do you know what I mean? Then that, and if you didn't have that cassette, the only way you could hear the tune was to go and see a DJ play somewhere else, because you go, oh, you played that tune, so you go and watch that DJ. Whereas now, like you say, someone's ripped it, it's on SoundCloud, and that you know, and you can Shazam a track and blah blah blah. Because people put tracks out now so fast after they're made, because there's no part in the time to promo the record, because things get ripped and they get straight up there. So, you know, literally, like I'll get sent a track on a promo thing. I'll get sent it a promo, and it'll be like released the same day. It's out. Do you know what I mean? So there is no, the promo period is like when it's out, and records do stay around a long time. But whereas back then, you know, say like the time between What Can You Do For Me when it first got played on promo in the record shops to it being top 10 was 3 or 4 months. You know, so we had to clear the sample, you know, because it was an illegal sample at the time initially, because we didn't think about clearing it. We just put it on a bit of vinyl. So yeah, it's changed, and I always just always like, I'm not one of these people who goes, oh, it was better back then. I always try and take the positives and everything and work with it and move forward. But I have, like you, probably seen a lot of changes over the years.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think one of the good things for me is, you know, coming from the UK, you know, I grew up with the rave scene, and then I moved over to the States, and like 30 odd years ago. So I've had the rave scene over here as well. You know, I've seen it grow. But yeah, it's different times, you know, again, not sounding like the old fart, you know, I don't understand the whole social media influencer DJ. It's kind of very cringy to me.
It was interesting because last night I watched, my daughter sent me this video, and it was the closing party at High in Ibiza, and I saw it kind of circulate on TikTok, and it was just weird. It was I won't say it was DJing, but big name DJs, and they were playing like it was a closing party, and they were everybody. The music was like it was quite flat, and everybody, nobody, not one person. When you look out, not one person was dancing. Everybody was stood still, and every single person, because it was a moment, every single person in that crowd was filming it. Right, every single person had a mobile, and it was just like, and I was kind of. I just thought, well, I'm not going to get involved in this, but there's part of me thinking, I rip this and then kind of compare and contrast to like say Quadrant Park, which is a big Liverpool thing, because I've seen a few videos on Quadrant Park recently. That's why it came to my head. In the 90s against that, and it's like, and when I watched it, I was just like, it's quite sad that it's like because you guys. You're not living the moment, you're capturing the moment, and just live the moment. That's all. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, how many times are you going to go back and watch that video for that? You'll put it up online going, I was there, but it's like, it doesn't matter that you were there. It's like, no one cares. It's like, you just enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Because it should be about you being there and enjoying the moment, getting something from it, and just kind of getting inspired or something, just getting something out of it. But don't film it to show the world that you're there, because the world doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, everyone else is sharing that video as well. So your video's, probably way at the bottom anyway. It's again, like, have this conversation just because I do, like I did with Aston. You lose the whole soul.
Yeah,
and dance music, it's in the name, dance music. I'll say it over again. It's not just stand and stare at the DJ. It's and especially high Ibiza as well. It's very expensive to get in there, and the drinks are very expensive. Again,
I having come from just having come from a thing where you like go out on a Friday night and you pay £5 or £10, and it's like you go into a club and you just have a good time and you just pay normal prices, to then paying crazy amounts for a bottle of water, and people paying money for tables, like for VIP tables with minimum spend, all this stuff. It's just like it's completely it's a different world to me, that, and I just can't get my head around it. And I maybe sound like an old fart, but I am an old fart, but I'm just not feeling all that, and it's not what's music about. And I think you find out every DJ would tell you that as well. It's just like, look, for me, it's just about heads down in the club, and it's like you don't have to look at the DJ. It's just like play good music, and people will enjoy it, and just enjoy yourself. Life's too short.
I mean, the whole thing too is, I would come home like my clothes dripping with sweat.
Yeah.
And I didn't care what I looked like. What I cared about was going to that club and having the most amazing time with my mates.
Yeah.
And those are the memories that I take. Not that, the way I was dressed, or, how much this cost, or I mean, I'd feel the same for a local DJ as I would for, Sasha to me is the best DJ on the planet. He just, it's just because of the emotional aspect he gives me. But the local DJs in Liverpool were just as good on their nights, and I would have a great time there, or have a great time seeing Sasha. It didn't bother me who was playing, just as long as they were playing the tunes and playing them well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same. It's like, it's good just to go and watch a good DJ play is enough for me, and I don't have to film it. But I might. The only bonus for me is having a phone. Is if I heard a wicked tune, I'll probably just record a bit of it on my phone and go, so I can remember it, and then come back to it at a later date. But it's not. It's weird because when I come back from doing our gigs, it's like I've never hardly ever got any photos or video, and if I've got video, it's just crap, because I'm just like hold the camera for 10 seconds, taking a bit of a video of the crowd, and I'm like, I look back and think, can't really put that up online because it's all shaky, and I'm just like, but the thing is, the reason why I say that, because I wasn't focused on thinking I must get a shot for the ground. I'm thinking about what record I'm going to drop next and how to keep it going, and I'm thinking so many things. It's the last thing on my mind, and I always get home and think, damn, I didn't get any video. And people like our record label or that, they're just like, did you get footage from that? Did you? And I'm like, shit, no, I didn't. I forgot. Because I was enjoying it and I was doing my job, and so I end up trying to get footage, see if anybody else has put footage up online. But it's just, it's just weird times we live in, but hopefully, things will change.
Well, I mean, most of the upcoming DJs now have, I know you and Jez probably travel by yourself a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Now these DJs are traveling with a whole social media crew, a cameraman, a TikTok advisor. It's just getting a bit out of hand, and the videos I watch really do make me cringe, because you see the DJ that they're playing, and then they're doing, they're turning away from the decks so the cameraman can get their picture or the video taken. And I'm like, it's not about you.
No, it's about the night. It's about you.
If it wasn't for the punters, you'd be nothing. So
exactly.
I don't understand it. But again, I try not to think too much about it, and just, I enjoy what I enjoy. I enjoy the days I enjoy. But sometimes when you're on Twitter or Instagram and you just see these, because that's what they are, the DJ influencers. They know how to press a sync button.
But the hard thing is, as well, is kind of then. So if you're at the moment, so say you don't have a social media presence, right, and you made that, I don't know, an amazing track, right? It's like, and took it to a label, a big label, and you want to get a deal with it. Then the first thing they do is go and do somebody in the office will do a full social media report on you. So go, right. So he's cool because he's done this so far, and he's got 21,000 followers. He's got this. He's done this. He's got, and so people try to get to that level. So it is a two. So people kind of think they need to get to that level because when the record label signs it, they've already got a complete package. Where to me, that's it's quite lazy as well on the record label side, because record labels don't. Very rare that they sign someone now just be watching them on pure talent and going, right, we'll develop this and we'll spend like 3 years on it. It's like, we'll sign this record because Chris Stussy's playing it, or we'll sign this record because so and so played it at there, and and it's got X amount of views on TikTok. Do you know what I mean? But record label now like the finished package already done. They need something to go on. Do you know what I mean? So they won't. Gone are the days of going, this guy's got talent, we'll sign him and work with him for ages, see what comes at the end and take a chance on it. That doesn't happen anymore. So, so it is a two-way thing, because then the DJ's making tracks going, right, I made this killer track, but my social network, my social media profile's crap. I've got to have followers, so they go and get followers and do this and do that, and it's like. So they're both kind of feeding off each other in a way, and it needs to be reset.
Well, I think it needs to be more organic. It does. But
and all those records that came out around that time of ours in the 90s, everything. The great thing was it was all organic, and so say, what can you do for me? Got top 10. Something good got top 10, and they got top 10 because. People heard those records out in clubs, then they went out and spent their hard-earned money, and bought a physical copy of that thing that made it chart. Didn't really have radio support or we didn't have Radio 1 daytime play. So you're up against heavyweight artists at the time. Because I remember doing Top of the Pops and people like Lionel Richie on it, Cliff Richard, and Kylie Minogue, and these are like artists with big spends behind them from record labels. Then you got bands suddenly coming out of nowhere, like Prodigy, you got Moby, and you got SL2, and all these acts who are literally making records in their bedroom, and then signing to labels. But everybody's going out and buying those records, and they're selling serious units to compete against these big artists. And then by default, Top of the Pops is going, you know, they have to put you on Top of the Pops because you deserve the right. So we always had imposter syndrome because, you know, we thought we don't really deserve to be here, but we did because we sold as many records as them. But, you know, that's the difference. But there's a lot of records made in that era that just totally stand the test of time. And, you know, here we are 33, 34 years later, and those records are still getting played and the kids are still digging them as well as the older people. And it's like, it's gone full circle.
Well, with Something Good, were you a big Kate Bush fan?
Yeah, I've always been a Kate Bush fan, but again, when we made On the Back of What Could You Do For Me, we were like, right, we kind of had a bit of a formula there because we had a couple of samples. We had Annie Lennox and we had Graham Guthrie from Ain't Nothing Going On But the Wren, you know. And that round about that time, when you watch something like the Brits, they're always the biggest singer was either Kate Bush, Annie Lennox. They were always, you know. So we just thought, right, we'll have to try and find a line from Kate Bush for one of our tracks. But we wanted to take something that was positive, and we thought we can't, because our whole vibe with sampling was never take someone else's, the essence of somebody else's track, make it the essence of yours. It was take something from somebody else's track, flip it in a completely different context. Don't take someone else's chorus and make it your chorus. Take a line from the verse or something like that, you know, which is what we did with Annie Lennox and Kate Bush. And I like to think that's why she kind of cleared the sample, because she's never cleared a sample since, and it's the only time she's ever cleared a sample in her life. But I like to think it's because we didn't we didn't ride on the back of it being Kate Bush, because I still get to this day got people going, I never realised it was Kate Bush until the other day, and I've heard that record for the last 20 years, and it's like, so that's, you know, that shows it kind of, I don't know, we just took a small thing and took it out of context and put it into a different track and flipped it. You know, the obvious thing to do would have been do like Running Up That Hill and just take a big chunk of that, put beats behind it, but that wasn't the way we worked. I think, yeah. So to answer your question though, yeah, so we kind of just wanted to do another female vocal, and it was like, Kate Bush was quite a big artist and she had a unique voice. We thought, right, we could do something with this.
Well, it was really nice too, because she obviously let you use part of her video.
Yeah,
well.
She did. Yeah, and we had to cut out the bit of Donald Sutherland is in that video, but we couldn't use him, but we could use her. So, but yeah, I mean, again, you know, we made cheap videos, and the videos are not that amazing, but they were just like clips from raves and stuff like that, and it was all just thrown together in a little bit of footage. But, you know, at the time, the record company wouldn't put massive amounts of money into your videos because it was a new thing, all this. You know, are we all one-hit wonders? You know, so we're not going to spend loads of money on it. So you get a few grand to make a video. So you probably get your mate to make it, and you know, it filmed some footage at a rave, and so nobody made great videos back then, but they did the job, and they worked.
Well, I mean, 9 top 40 UK hits, and you know, 4 of those got top 10. I mean, you can look back on that and just go, that's brilliant. You were on top of pops, which again, you know, when you're a teenager growing up in the UK, you want to be on top of the pops.
Yeah, you do, because it you know, because I explained that to my daughter, because it's kind of it was a big deal back then, because it was a big deal to be on telly, because now it's not a big deal to be on telly because you've got so many channels and you can get on telly if you want to, really. And it's like, and not everybody sees stuff because everybody watches TV on demand, and a lot of things get missed. So, but with back then, as you remember, it's like Top of the Pops was prime time, 7 o'clock. You'd be sat down at home with your mum and dad having your tea, and like everybody watched Top of the Pops. And then you went into school the next day and everybody talked about what was on top of the pots, whether it was good or crap. And so chances are you'd be seen on telly. So it was a big deal, that. And and I remember we kind of quickly debated with ourselves whether we should do it, or was it selling out, or was it cool going on top of the pops at the time. And then we thought, yeah, it was cool, because there'd be a lot of people like us sat at home, never seen anything like this, and it's an introduction to music, right? And we're keeping something else that maybe is crap off top of the pops, and going, look, this is dance music and that. But if you like it, get into it, research it more, check it out. That was how kind of we got into stuff. You always have something that gets you into something, and if you kind of gel with it, then you get deeper and deeper into it. So like with dance music, you might go into deep underground, Chicago house or Detroit techno, or you might get into your trance stuff and that. But there's always got to be an entry point for you to get in, and so that was the reasons why we thought it was cool to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see, it's kind of make or break as well, because I remember hearing the stories about like Wham and Culture Club.
Yeah.
I think with Wham, they were at last minute. They got put on, and then Culture Club, kind of the same thing. They only knew about it the day before, and then they went on to have amazing.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, well, we only got. I remember we got told on the Monday that you're on, and it was filmed on the Wednesday, so you get a call Monday morning saying you're on top of the pots, and then by Wednesday you're on the train down to London and staying in the and then you're doing rehearsals Wednesday morning and you're filming it Wednesday night, so you actually get no time to prepare for it. You get told the week before where you were in the charts on the midweek thing, so you're actually doing okay, so you may get top of the pots, so you start thinking about it, but you don't know until Monday that you got it. And then so suddenly by Monday afternoon they want a stage plan. They wanted the edit to be like, if your track was 3 minutes 50, they want an edit to be 3 minutes 20, so you'd have to do an edit, cut it down. Then they want a stage plan where everybody's going to stand and what instruments you need to hire in and all that stuff. And so it moves really fast, and before you know it, you're down there on Wednesday morning running through the track all day. So we were like, we were like, geez, this is cool, but it's like we thought, how are we going to present this? So we thought we'd present it as a band rather than just me and Jazz. So we decided to go on the band route, but there was like, there was 4 or 5 guys stood on stage, vocals coming out and no singer, and the vocals coming out of a machine. And they were like, well, where's the singer? And we're like, well, it's a sample, so we're not going to bring somebody down to mime Kate Bush or Annie Lennox because it's an Annie Lennox sample. So why would we do that? And so they were like, well, so they put me at the front where the position of the sort of lead guitarist would be with my decks, and I'd have to look like I was dropping the vocal off the records to make it look interesting. And then, I remember them sending me out the studio because they said, could I go and get a coloured bit of vinyl to make it a little bit more interesting, and just things like that. So we were always under pressure to try, to make it presentable. And I remember doing that episode as well. I remember there was the Oberon as well, and their track had got in the top 20, and they just played chess. So they do you remember that episode? So they just played, and the producers and that were like just pulling their hair out because I just thought it was genius, but they just played chess for the whole 3 or 4 minutes, and the camera had to film that for primetime BBC. So it was one of those moments the next day when people go, "Did you see that band just playing chess?" And it's cool because you're just kind of making a statement, and like going back to imposter syndrome, you got 5 minutes of primetime BBC, and you got every right to be there. They don't want you to be there, but you take your right and you take that 5 minutes and you do whatever you want.
Alex Patterson is an absolute genius.
Yeah,
really is. Like,
he's totally cool.
I remember that, and just my sister was more into I'm a big Depeche Mode New Order fan, but she was more into like Altered Images Aztec, the kind of stuff. And we watched
yeah,
that.
Depeche Mode were one of the Depeche Mode. I remember when they were one of the first bands I actually saw, and I remember going to see them at Hammersmith Odeon when I was about 16 years old. And again, that gelled with me because it was electronic music and keyboards, and I just wanted to go down that route. So all these little things have just kind of hooked me at a young age, because I totally, a few years ago I was lucky enough to be in New York and Depeche Mode were playing all a year later at Madison Square Garden, and that was one of the greatest gigs I've ever been to in my life. And but it's kind of emotional for me as well, because it was just like they were the first band I saw, and then all this time later I'm back watching them again in Madison Square Garden, and they're still doing it, so on a massive scale.
Yeah, they're absolutely brilliant. What I love about them is like every album's different. They go a little darker, maybe a little lighter. But
they always reinvent themselves, and I guess that's what you've got to do. I mean, one thing that's let myself and Jez down is the fact that we've only done 2 albums in the last 30 years. We should have done more, and I'm for whatever reasons we haven't.
But I mean, the great thing, I know a lot of people will bring in their own producers or engineers. I mean, you and Jez, you wrote, produced, and mixed all your own stuff, and I find that fascinating because, again, I'll hark back to this day and age. If you have an idea, you can go and hire a producer, like a ghost producer, an engineer, and they will, bring your ideas to life. But you and Jez, yourselves, and my hats are off to you. Why did you think now is the right time? I know it's been 30 plus years now for your debut album. Why did you think it was like the right time to like reintroduce the album to the world?
Because we got an opportunity, because our back catalogue, all the London record stuff from back in the day, there was a period where Double F Double R and London Records sort of didn't exist, and it's been passed around big company to big company. But then our label who we're on at the moment is called Because Music, and they brought all the catalogue for London Records. So, and that was in 2017. So when they brought it, we were like, straight away, we had a meeting with them, and we were like, right, it'd be great to get, because there was a lot of tracks which had not come out, and then they were not on digital, and there were things where we'd done promos and they'd not been released, and we were like, right, we've got all this stuff, and we kind of want to get it out there. So it's taken quite a few years to get together and like find the DATs and remaster them. And and the other thing was that the original album came out on one piece of vinyl, so we wanted to put it on a heavier bit of vinyl, split it over 2, and just make it a bit more special. And because there is a resurgence in vinyl, but people, I think our age group, what I've noticed, especially in the last few years when we're going out and DJing events, is that to our age group, the kids are grown up and they're left home, gone to university, or at an age now where they can kind of take care of themselves. And all those people who are going out then, they're going out again now, and they want to go out and they want to go to events. And so we've been doing quite a lot of these sort of day events that are starting at 4 or 5 on a Saturday, finishing at 10, 11, but they're absolutely rammed, and they're just like, by 5 o'clock, it's just kicking off. And it's amazing. So people, it's great to see that. So a couple with that is, I think, people kind of, want to hold stuff, and part of the generation at the moment, think that music should be free, and it is free to them because they just go on YouTube. They don't mind, they might have a subscription to Spotify or YouTube. They don't mind sitting through a 10-second advert. That's cool. They're used to that. Listen to a track, build a playlist on Spotify or Apple Music, and then when they get bored of that track, they just delete it. And that's it, and then they go on to the next thing. Whereas, I can go, I've got like a big record collection, and like behind with your shoe collection, you can pick up any one of those records, and I can remember, I could probably tell you a story about the time that I got that, where I got it from, or I remember playing that. I remember that when that sat in my record box and was a big tune, and it's got a memory attached to it. And the problem at the moment is everything's a bit throwaway, and music's free. So therefore, the artist, unless you do millions of streams, you don't get any money off those records really. And you maybe go and see the artist, or you buy some merchandise, and that's, as an artist, that's how you earn money. Whereas back in the day, I'd say, what can you do for me? It sold about physical copies. It sold, whether it be CDs, vinyl, cassettes, sold about 180,000. So 180,000 people went out and bought that, actually paid some money, and had something physical to hold in their hand. And when looking back at it now, that amazes me. But we all took that for granted at the time. But and whereas now, if somebody puts out an album and it sells 5,000 on physical, that's a big success, and that is a big success because nobody buys vinyl anymore, but it is coming back. So we just thought, we'll put it out there to that generation of people if they want to have, because they sit in the chair, they've got a nice turntable, they've got a little setup and that, and they just want to put a record on, get the crackle at the start, and listen to a record from start to finish, and sit in the chair. They might be reading something, and it's nice. It's how it should be, kind of thing.
Well, it's great because a lot of these revival raves, bringing yourselves and Slipmatt. It's great because they seem to be bringing the families with them. Like the older kids are going raving with their parents. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and a lot of these events we're at which is really encouraging. We are seeing there's people there, in the 40s or 50s, and then stood next to people in the 20s. But there's no age. Nothing looks weird and nothing looks wrong. It's like there's no age division, and it's kind of like people are just into it, and it's great to see. A younger audience that are kind of getting the tracks, and they know the tracks as well. The cool thing is they do know the tracks, and they're in the 20s, and like, how do you know this track? Do you know what I mean? And it's like that's really cool to see. So whether it's them sitting in the car with the mum and dad having cassettes on, or old mixes and that, but the kids seem to know the tracks, and the tracks are still sounding really good.
Well, it's like, I don't know if you know the Instagram. Well, he's the Fish Octagon fella.
Yeah.
I think he's brilliant. I really do. Yeah. A lot of people are kind of like, he's a bit cringe, but you know what? He's living the best days of his life. He is. He's playing all these like older tracks that me and you grew up with, and he's doing it in a way, such a way where it's not all trance set, it's not hard house, it's not breaks or techno. Yeah. And you see all these kids at the front just having the time of their lives. And
he's been cool with us because he played. That's how I noticed him as well, because he played one of our tracks on his thing, and he started talking about it, and so then it was cool. And then I met him a few months ago, but he's sound. I mean, there's a lot of people kind of giving him grief, but I'm just thinking, well, anybody could have done that, but he chose to do it, and he's kind of quite a quirky sort of character, and he was doing it in his dressing gown, and he didn't care. I don't think he thought at the start. He just generally loves music, and he just started playing records and filming it, and he would be in his dressing gown having some toast or something, and goes check this tune out, blah blah blah, and then it built from that. So good luck to him.
He's clued up. Like,
he is clued up. Yeah,
it's not like you can tell when somebody's full of shit. Yeah, and he's not. He's been in the scene for a very long time. You can tell, and just listening to. I think just people in this day and age, just a bit. When somebody else does something.
No, classic. a classic British thing to do is to
tear them down.
build them up and knock them down, and we love to do that. Whereas I do know other countries are kind of like, you know, you see someone's driving a nice car, they're like, "How do you get the car?" And you go, "I work really hard." And go, "Congratulations." Do you know what I mean? It's like, whereas we in this country we seem to be like encourage people on the way up, and then you don't do too well because we're like we'll bring you back down again. So
yeah, well, it's the British media, social media. But, it's already been an hour, mate, and
okay.
That's what I love about these shows. We just talk, and you know, I have my podcast mixer here, and I just look at the time, and it's after an hour, and it goes by so quickly because conversation is so good, and it just flows.
I know you asked me. Yeah, so the thing is, I did my homework because you asked me a question, right? You said what's my ultimate festival lineup? So I jotted it down on a bit of paper just in case you asked me. So I did do it. I've done my homework, so
you get an A+, Tim. So what is your ultimate festival lineup for Friday, Saturday, Sunday headliners?
Okay, so Friday, I thought I'd go back to my roots, and some of the early bands that I saw when I first got into DJing side of it. I remember when I was a kid, I went to see Public Enemy, Run DMC. I used to go to these hip hop all days, a club called Rock City in Nottingham, and I was underage and I used to sneak in there. But I remember seeing Public Enemy. I saw Run DMC, LL Cool J, and people like that. So my Friday lineup would be Public Enemy, Run DMC, a DJ called Cash Money, who was like a really good party DJ, but skillful. He won the world championships, I think, when I entered back in 87, 88. And he blew my mind. And then also Jazzy Jeff, always been a fan of him. And then so a little bit of a curveball in here. There's a guy called Mantronics, and he was he just made a lot of records in the late 80s and 90s, like electro. And I saw him DJ once, and I remember just seeing him DJ and doing 2 copies using this breakbeat that's known as Peter Piper, which Run DMC used. It's quite a famous breakbeat, and I remember just being stood on a stage and just 2 Technics turntables, a massive sound system, and he just scratched it, and the whole place just rumbled. And I was just like, that always stuck with me. So that's my Friday lineup. So we've got 5 acts on there. So moving on to Saturday, it's a little bit more up to date and more on the dance side. I thought I'd have some bands and DJs. I was going to have Justice as my kind of big band of the night, and then backed up DJ wise, I was going to have Errol Alkan, Too Many DJs, Dave Clark, and Jeff Mills.
Wow.
That I just figured that would program quite nicely as a night. I'd probably have Jeff Mills finishing it off because it'd just be like full on. So that's my DJ thing. And then on Sunday, I thought, right, we'll have some bands. So I thought I have to have Kate Bush in there because it'd be good to see her play live. I've never seen her. Always been a fan of Talking Heads. So I thought Talking Heads I'd like to see. Depeche Mode are in there. Prince, Prodigy, and The Roses. So there you go. It's not rocket science, this lineup, but it's quite varied. And as a festival, I reckon I'd sell that out.
I think so too. Even if you just had one of those nights, you would sell out. No, that's brilliant. Yeah, you're spot on with those, mate. And it's been an absolute pleasure, Tim. It really has.
Nice one.
Again, you know, I do these episodes because it's just great to talk to people that I, you know, again grew up listening to. And I have to say, there's something good. The 2008 video is one of my favorite videos, just because it's a bit tongue in cheek.
I'll tell you a very, very, very quick story about that one. Just that when the roundabout time when that video was done, we Ministry, to their credit, they were doing videos. You know, I don't know if you remember the Eric Prid's Call on Me one. There were quite a lot of females in very little clothes, and me and Jazz didn't see the Utahs as being kind of too close to that in our videos. So we said, look, we understand you got to appeal to a certain crowd. We get that, but the video has to have a story and a bit of humour behind it, and we don't have to go down that route. So that's how that video with the Running Man and the whole story of that came about. And you know, it's quite funny because we do make a little cameo in it. We went down for this shoot, and you know, we saw everything and thought, yeah, this is cool, it's going to be fine. And then when we saw the final cut, there's still a couple of shots where like the girl just spins around, and classic Ministry shots, but we let them sneak them in because they kind of they compromise for us, so we compromise for them. But yeah, it did really well for that video. It's yeah, because we had a dance in it. There's so many, if you go online, there's so many like people kind of copying it and doing versions of it.
No, it's brilliant. When will the reissue drop?
It's National Album Day, which is October the 19th. So that's when it's out. Yeah, and yeah, so hopefully, we went across to the distributors and we signed 300 vinyl and we signed 300 CDs. And yeah, hopefully it's cool. I mean, it's not been, this whole thing of for us is not about really making money. It's just like putting some vinyl out, and because we do well anyway off DJing. We're out. We've been out every weekend since April this year, and last Saturday was the first Saturday I had off because I had to go to a wedding. But so yeah, I mean, for us, it's kind of the whole thing's part of a big cake, and it's just a little segment, but it's cool for us. We're just so happy to put the record out again.
Well, I wish you all the best, and
Thank you.
I'll put a link. Is it going to be on Bandcamp? Yeah,
it will be. Yeah, and if you go to the Utah Saints Instagram or you know any of our social things, there's a link in our bio, and it goes straight to the thing, and you can order. They've done some little bit of merchandise around it and slip mats, and they do little bundles and that. So, so it's cool. Yeah, and so hopefully, yeah, it's been nice to do get some vinyl out again. So it's kind of. It has given me and Jazz a little bit of kick up the arse. So we should probably just do one more album before we call it a day. So we'll probably do a third album because we've enjoyed the sort of process of getting this out again, because it feels like even though the records were being made 30 years ago, it feels like we're putting a new album out because it's been so long since we've done it.
I wish both all the best.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Been a pleasure to do this as well. I really appreciate it, because with my limited football knowledge, I've talked way more about music. So thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like and subscribe. Put your notifications on, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.